to another edition of the City That Never Sleeps show. I'm your host, Brandon, joined by my co-host, Ryan Toomey. Toomey, how are we doing on this fine day afternoon at 3 o'clock?
Another good Tuesday. Glad to be here. Happy to see you. Glad. Let's get another good showing. Let's do it.
Yeah, we got a lot of fun stories to cover. You know, Kyrie Irving got traded. That's kind of crazy. We'll get into that whole thing because saga played out before we could even have a show. The latest in Jets quarterback rumors. We got Daniel Jones rumors. Him wanting anywhere from $5 to $37 million. And we got Knicks trade deadline stuff to come up. We got deadline stuff to cover. Rangers, Islanders. We got a lot of fun stuff. And then the best thing all today, we're gonna give you guys our Super Bowl because the big games this weekend. And what would be a sports shout? You bets that you should go with opposite of. No, I'm kidding. We're very good with it. What do you think? What do you think?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So before we get into anything, question of the day, or basically agree or disagree of the day. The Nets will trade Kevin Durant. Agree or disagree? Disagree. We're gonna get to that in the show, but while we're talking about the few topics, make sure to leave your comments in the comments section. We'll get to them when we arrive at part. So the Jets basically have their offensive coordinator, and the Senior Bowl happened this past. I was following it a little bit. Not down there, not covering it, but some intriguing names that were brought to John Michael Schmitz, the center prospect. He's someone that a lot of Jet fans are linking the team with. They think they could get in the second round. I personally think that'd be a great option, especially considering Connor McGovern's a free agent and another center on the roster. It's either re-signing McGovern or you're going to draft a guy like Schmitz. So at 13 currently, as it stands right now, Jets are probably going to go offensive lineman, but it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out, how the draft and the Jets' strategy for the draft moves forward as we progress toward the combine and then free agency itself. But the biggest thing right now for the Jets is the quarterback position, because who the heck knows what is going to happen with that. So, to me, right off the bat here, have you seen any Jets rumors linking from quarterbacks, and what's the latest you've seen on like Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and things like that?
It's been pretty dry. The only thing, weirdly enough, I think it was a couple nights ago, had a dream where Aaron Rodgers became a Jet, and I woke up kind of thinking that you texted me that, but end of the day, that did not happen. But really, no, not much talks going into it. I think all the press right now is on that Super Bowl, that big game this Sunday. I don't think we're going to hear anything until then. A lot of conversations from the Pro Bowl weekend, if you saw. Derek Carr was throwing a lot of shots at the Raiders organization. And when it comes down to it, he's ready to move on. We all know that. And I know we're stuck between Rodgers and Carr, but you got to lean one way, and I think Carr's the answer. I think the Jets organization really wants Rodgers, but when it comes down to it, the guy wants a new home in Carr, and I think Jets would be a great landing spot for it.
1,000%. And the fun part about doing this show on a Tuesday afternoon is concurrently with this show, McAfee show is going on. And the great thing about Tuesday Pat McAfee show is that they are called Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. So on McAfee show today, Aaron Rodgers said that he's under contract with the Packers and that it gets lost in the con. He basically dispelled he wouldn't retire in the same offseason as Tom Brady, saying the idea that I want to share a stage at the Hall of Fame with Tom Brady and JJ Watt is ridiculous. Rodgers said he has an opportunity to do a little self-reflection, in isolation, and after that, he will feel like he'll be a lot final decision. He hasn't decided if he's going to play in 2023 or not. And in typical Aaron Rodgers fashion, he said he's taking darkness retreat, and what that means is he will be in pitch black all day and night for 40 nights. It is really sensory deprivation. He said it's stimulating EMT, and there can be hallucinations. To summarize the rest from David Watt, one of my favorite Jets accounts to follow him, give him a follow. To really everything, Rodgers decided whether or not he's going to retire. He squashed rumors he would be putting off sharing a Hall of Fame class. Hasn't talked to his representatives since the season ended. Hasn't expressed any desired destination. Went to great lengths to explain he's still contracting back. We touched on this, and I'll be completely honest with you. My mindset with everything is Rodgers is the number one option, B option under Lamar Jackson. And, the rumors going, if Lamar was available, would pursue him. Well, the sky's so blue because, if you have a shaky quarterback situation, you'd be a fool to not pursue a former MVP. But in the quote-unquote more realistic sense, I've always thought Derek Carr was that guy. In this he's the most realistic option to the Jets. Look, I'll be honest. Aaron Rodgers seemed like a pipe dream, and has it gone 5%? They're probably a 20% chance. Yes, it has. But you can't on that. You can't. It's simple as that. You can't bank on hey, we're gonna get Aaron Rodgers. And I'm in that the Jets aren't just gonna be like, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, or we're starting Jacoby Brissett, or it's Aaron Rodgers and we're starting Gardner next year. I personally don't think that's gonna happen. But my mindset with that has to me, like you said, Carr is the most realistic and probably your best realistic option right now.
No, yeah, well, like we've been saying for the past 3 weeks or 2 weeks now that we talk about this, they gotta get someone. They are gonna get someone, and it's gotta be the right person. It's gotta be one of those top 3 guys we've been talking about this whole time, in Carr, Rodgers, and Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens would be stupid enough not to pay Lamar Jackson. We were looking at before the contracts for a lot of these quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson deserves money. He does. He's an MVP quarterback, and yes, he's been a little injury prone, but even if he cuts down on using his legs a lot, he's still a weapon. But the Jets got to get one of these quarterbacks, and we can throw our names out of who we want, but we just got to get one of them.
1,000%. And, Lamar Jackson situation. Apparently the Ravens are $100 million apart on a contract. That whole situation is interesting because the Raiders have until 15th to decide whether they're gonna cut or trade. And in the sense of, let's take a team like the Jets. Why would the Jets give up draft if the Raiders are gonna cut him anyway? They benched him for the last three or so games of the. So it's coming where the timing's all weird because the Rodgers trade most likely has to be made with a June 1st designation, which means the trade can't even officially go through until the summer. Carr, it's the free agent market. He has a right to choose his destination, and there's who would want to come to New York. You got to weigh your options. A Lamar wouldn't probably happen until July at the earliest or June at the earliest, after he probably gets franchised and starts holding out. Oh, the Jets have to make this decision of who is their priority, who is their number one. And at the same time, are you okay missing out with the other guys? Are you okay missing out on Rodgers and possibly Garoppolo if you go out? Are you okay missing out on Carr and Jackson and Garoppolo if you go after Rodgers? It's the give, it's the take, and that decision has made very, very soon, because as we've talked about on this show, the biggest key to the Jets offseason is the quarterback, because as good as the roster was last year, with no quarterback, nothing good happened.
I'd like to touch on the point you brought before. It's when you're saying what you're missing out with picking someone else. When it comes down to it, Rodgers, how many years does Rodgers have left, realistically? 2, 3, 2?
2.
Do you think he's done after this contract?
100%.
Then, realistically, if you miss out on Rodgers, hey, he's Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen, but you're missing out 2 years. So I wouldn't be as upset missing out on Rodgers as I would a Carr or would a Jackson, because those are going to be long-term guys if it works out for them in New York. And that's the case scenario too. Is it going to work out with these guys coming to New York? That's something we would never find out until it actually happened. And quite frankly, it would be something pretty stupid to talk about since, well, we can't predict the future, but just saying, like, I'd rather miss out on a guy like Rodgers than the other two. But you just got to get them. You got to get their foot in the door.
Exactly. It's like you have to, you have to decide where it is. And it's like you said, do you want short term, which Rodgers 100%, or do you maybe for a short term with the potential for it to be a bit more with a Carr? Or do you wait? And I don't think this is going to happen. Do you wait out a Lamar trade for the longest? Personally, I think that's the least likely option. I think your Carr or Rodgers are your likely options there, and it's very, very, very interesting to see, how all that's going to play out.
Yeah, when I touch the Ravens, if they give up on Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't consider it a full rebuild, but they have no quarterback. They have a solid team. Their offense is lacking with the wide receiver room and other stuff, but they have a solid O-line. Their defense is always going to be good. We've seen it for years and years. Their defense is solid. But without a quarterback, we've seen teams, unless you have a defense like the 49ers, where, they got lucky again with their third-string quarterback being good, but without those weapons and those star players, your team cannot be good without a quarterback. Look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. You throw Lawrence in there and you throw all these receivers that people are like, why are they signing these guys? Put a good quarterback in with receivers and he's going to make them stars.
Yeah, the Trevor Lawrence PTSD. Oh, yeah, Brandon Mann make one tackle. And Trevor Lawrence could have been the quarterback of the Jets, but I rest. So as it stands today, Tuesday, February 7th, to me, who do you think the Jets quarterback option is at this very moment?
Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to be the guy, I think, that comes to the Jets. I know the Jets are really pushing for Aaron Rodgers. What's wrong with Zach Wilson? A lot's wrong with Zach Wilson. He needs a quarterback to hey, talk about Zach Wilson. I think Aaron Rodgers would be the best thing for Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson's not going anywhere. He's not. Not this year. You think this year?
Get into some of the comments. Don says, what's up? And Brian says, what's up? Glad you guys are in here. The rest of you guys, we will get to them very shortly. And what's wrong with Zach Wilson? Well, how much time do you got? Today? How much? But in all honesty, my most realistic and what I think is truly going to happen. I think Carr is the quarterback of the Jets heading in the next year, barring some crazy turn of events. Because if I'm the Jets, if I'm Joe Douglas, if I'm Robert Saleh, look, I would 100% after Aaron Rodgers. Are you willing to risk missing out on else? You talked about it with the offensive coordinator hire. They played it so safe with Nathaniel Hackett. We need just a veteran in here. And let's it. As good as Hackett was, probably would have liked the Joe Brady hire better with Hack senior offensive mind. Or a Brian Johnson hire with Hackett in their offensive mind. But they played it safe. And everyone immediately links Rodgers. I think Carr works just as well, if not a little bit worse than Rodgers in that offense. At the day, what did the Jets need? The Jets needed a point. They needed a point guard to distribute the ball. Garrett Wilson to Elijah Moore to C.J. Uzomah, Conklin, Breece Hall, and it didn't happen. Wilson could not get the job done. Mike White couldn't stay healthy. Joe Flacco probably should. So that's what you need at the end of the day. And I think Carr is your best option. Timeline, which I think is the most underrated part of all this. You get the quarterback in the building as possible. And in terms of what I think is truly going to happen. But we got Brian in the chat saying Derek Carr choice. I agree. I think not severely underrated, but underrated. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit. Back Jacoby Brissett. Oh my goodness. I truly hope that doesn't happen. And I hope Brissett is a decent quarterback, but you can't. So much of this is optics too. You can't miss on Garoppolo, Carr, Rodgers, Lamar, and probably at that point Tannehill. Go into next season saying, "Hey guys, Jacoby Brissett is the starting quarterback, and Nathaniel Hackett is our offensive coordinator." Because the conversation turns from, "Hey, we're gonna try and make the playoffs," to what do you call it? Oh, let's try to get Caleb Williams in the 2024 draft. Yeah, I see comments about the lag. I don't know what's going on. The Wi-Fi has been absolutely terrible the past few weeks. So I'm gonna get that looked at in the next few days. What do you call it? So, tell me, how would you feel if Brissett was the Jets quarterback next season?
It would be it'd be a failed offseason, quite frankly. It really would. The Jets, nothing against Jacoby Brissett. We saw what he did with Cleveland this year. He kept him in a lot of games. He can manage the game, but he's not going to give you those. He's not going to give you star plays that we really want for a quarterback and haven't seen from a quarterback since that one season of Fitzpatrick. We need a guy that's, hey, I wouldn't say Brissett couldn't come in and do what Fitzpatrick did, because, they're pretty much on the same course of career, those two guys. But really, no, if you bring in Brissett, then I'm really going to the chalkboard and doing my best to get Caleb Williams in next year's draft.
Whether it's Williams, Drake May, one of the other quarterbacks, that's comes down to. And there's been reports out there that have already talked in the draft. Eastern Carolina quarterback Holton Ahlers. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's his name. I probably got that wrong. They've spoke to him over the past few weeks. This goes back to something I said a few weeks ago. I think what the Jets do, they need to draft the guy. I think someone that, they're Buck Purdy, they're, Mullins. I personally would subscribe to, I'm gonna draft a quarterback in the late round every single year, because you never know when it's gonna hit. You never know when it's gonna hit. I think that's important, and it's crucial for the Jets to do in this draft, the later round. So I think on that note, let's move on to the Giants, and the Giants have a quarterback, but it's in a completely different vein. And I'll let you start on this one. Daniel Jones, Upper Hughes of SNY. The figure that is being talked about for him is in the range of 35 to 36 to 37 hours per year. At first reaction, how do we feel about that?
First reaction, just right off the top of my mind, it sounds like too much money. It really does. But when you look into the figures of what quarterbacks are making in this league, he's not wrong, I don't feel, for asking for that money. When it comes down to franchise quarterbacks, they're all making this much money if they're not on a rookie contract or have shown themselves in this league. Right now, that would put him in between Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, right around that range of 30. Dak's making 40 a year, Kirk Cousins making 35 million a year. So it put him in that range. And you know what? Daniel Jones sees that. He's like, hey, I just beat Kirk Cousins in the playoffs. So I don't think he's wrong for asking for that money, but it comes down to it. That is a lot of money to be putting into a quarterback who we really don't know what he hasn't really shown much. Like he has. I mean, they had a phenomenal year. A lot of that goes to Coach Dable. But how can he progress? There's a quarterback that has taken baby steps in this league. Step by step every year, he's getting progressively a little bit better. He's really focusing on putting the ball in the right place. On his touchdown to interception this year was 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. When I'm paying that much money, I want a guy who's going to be throwing 25 plus a year. I mean, Derek Carr is up there in those contracts too. He only threw 24 a year. It was a down year for Carr in yards and touchdowns, not touchdowns, but in yards for sure. But when it comes down to it, Derek Carr is making 40 a year. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money to be going to a guy who I don't think can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's quarterback money is such an interesting thing because let's face it, if the Giants don't pay him, who are you going to get that's better than him? You're not going to draft someone. You're not in a position to have that era. And as great as would be resetting the rookie scale, there's not a realism for a team that just made the playoffs. We got Brian in the poll saying give Danny Dimes a wide receiver and you'll see receivers get better. As Jones has no offensive weapons. And I think that's the main argument for contract could work. Because all the Giants offense look a lot better. We saw them win a lot of games that they weren't projected to win. And that's with Hodgins as your number one wide receiver. Darius Slayton as your number two. You add a JSN from Ohio State, you add a Jordan Addison, you add Quinn and Johnson. You're adding a number one guy, or maybe you make a trade. Maybe you trade for a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You trade for, I think the ideal if he came available, T. Higgins. Get a number one guy in that sense. And maybe there's an opt-out after that first year. Where it's a 3-year deal, but it's an opt after year one, or a mutual opt-out year one, where if absolutely bottom out, the Giants get a track. Because at the end of the day, the Giants have money to maneuver. They're not a complete roster. They need to still team build. And you still have to worry about paying Saquon Barkley. I think is just as important to this offense. So at the end of the number is astronomical. The number is high glance. But this is the big part of it. Quarterbacks get paid in this league. It is the most important, I think, outside of offensive linemen in the entire sport. Daniel Jones is going to get paid by the Giants. If the Giants don't pay him, that someone else will. And that's what it comes down to. Just like I think Saquon Barkley's going to get paid because Giants don't pay him, someone else is going to pay him. And when your offense was so vital with those two guys in it, there's no reason at all why they shouldn't be paid the vital part of the offense that they are.
Just like I said before with Daniel Jones, yes, get him weapons. He came into his own at the end of the year. He showed that receivers were being used. But just to add on, does it get to the point where we see these receivers coming in? I think Hodgins is a solid player. Hodgins was on the Bills before, was a practice squatter for the Bills, I believe, and was picked up by the Giants and really came in and I think really took over that wide receiver one role in their playoff run and at the end there.
I think he's a good too. I think he's a wide receiver too.
Solid. And I mean, when I'm going to say this before, when we saw Trevor Lawrence this year with his three weapons, he had Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. We saw Evan Ingram on the Giants. Evan Ingram had his best season of his career with a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. Didn't have his most targets, but he did have his most receptions, his most yards, his most touchdowns in 1 year with Trevor Lawrence. So when it comes, the weapons are there. Get him a weapon and let's see. I mean, if you get him a start wide receiver, let's see. I like the idea. Hey, I saw a name like D-Hop in the comments down there. If that's a possibility that you can get D-Hop, get D-Hop and see what happens. I don't think D-Hop would have his best season of his career. But maybe if you give him a chance to get one of these top guys, let's see how he can do. And really, that could be the jumpstart of what puts Daniel Jones into a conversation for a top 10 quarterback in the league. Where do you put him now? In a ranking of quarterbacks. I'm curious.
Right now, at this point?
Yeah.
And your top five's probably a combination of Holmes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Herbert. Then you probably get to your Aaron Rodgers. You probably get to your.
How about this? I'm going to list some quarterbacks. I want you to say better or worse.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my top 10 because I top 10.
So let's see. Would you rather 2 more years of Rodgers or Daniel Jones?
Probably Rodgers.
All right. A 35-year-old Russell Wilson?
Depends if but here's the thing. It's record Russell Wilson 100%. And current Wilson, well, is he sure? Is he not?
I mean, we got current Wilson right now, so I'm gonna go with Jones for him. Actually,
I'm probably going with Jones because has the mobility factor that's important.
This one, Kyler Murray.
Is he the same after the ACL injury?
All right, Deshaun Watson.
Is he the same quarterback? That's the thing, and this is what it comes down to. We talked about first glance, 35 to 37 per year for Jones seems like astronomical. Someone would pay him that money. The Jets would pay him 1,000%. The Raiders would pay him. The Colts would pay him. There are multiple teams. Daniel Jones that track because that's the state of quarterback in the NFL. You either need one of two things: superstar talent, like a Trevor Lawrence, like a Joe Burrow, like a Mahomes, like a Herbert, like a Lamar, or you need a guy that can move and extend plays because that covers up a lot of holes. And a good play caller that knows how to utilize that, your offense is in great position.
Just from looking at my list, I have him sitting at 10 or on the cusp of 10. Right, going through a list, I picked 9 guys who I thought were better and frankly are better than Daniel Jones. So, yes, 35 to 37 million would put him in the, let's see. It would put him in that 10 range. It would put him in that range. So, you know what? It kind of makes sense.
And
let's really looking at it.
Exactly. And he's firmly in that top 15 team.
Yes. Yeah.
Where it's like, he's better. He's better than the quarterbacks. And maybe in a vacuum, he's not, but consider a ball offense. And that's such a huge part of it. You have to consider the structure of the player that structure around the player. Without taking that into mind, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could talk about Josh Allen the same without Daboll helping to, just mechanics, him playing at an MVP level at most times. It's very important to look at that aspect of things.
And I think from just his viewpoint of looking, and when he sees a guy like Carson Wentz making 32 a year, so he knows. So really, he really does fall in that range of 35, 37. It's just, do the Giants want to pay that? And I think at the end of the day, they will. Daniel Jones will be the quarterback next year. And you know what? It's going to be time. They're going to be like, you know what? You got your money. We need you to dig deep and win us a lot of games.
Exactly. 100%. Brian in the chat says, Kyrie, that guy, had the Giants not given up on him. He for Kansas City. Tony's got all the talent. It's just a matter of him staying on the field his entire career. Yeah. Before on to our question of the day, because as two basketball fans, to whom I need to hear your thoughts on what transpired. I want to remind you guys that Creative Window Design Center is serving New York and New Jersey and Florida, or a fully authorized hunter dealer. Contact Jeff at 609 0391 for a station. Also, all campus is giving me 20% off everything in their store, including hats and shirts to all subscribers. Make sure that you don't want to miss out. Getting back to our question of the day, the Nets will trade Kevin Durant. Make sure to leave that in the comments. Agree, disagree. The Durant question can't start till we talk about Kyrie Irving. And I Philly, I'm gonna try out taking out the mic. So to me, why don't you get us started? Lay out what exactly happened with the Kyrie saga that occurred over the weekend, and then we'll get into what that means for Brooklyn, the NBA, and the question of the day in regards to Durant.
Well, yeah, like we saw last week, Kyrie Irving wanted to trade. He wanted out. Did not take long. He was benched, and then next day, boom, traded right to the Mavs. They got a great deal. Spencer Dinwiddie, Finney Smith, a couple picks. And when it came down to it, it was between the Mavs and the Lakers. Joe Tsai did not want to trade Kyrie Irving to the Lakers. I know he's been seen to be sometimes of a salty owner, and he did not want to give Kyrie back to LeBron. But at the end of the day, now Kyrie's got a new duo partner of Luka Doncic, which finally Luka gets a superstar caliber player to play with. We'll see how it goes. Past couple of years have not been the best for Mr. Irving. Saw a situation up in the Celtics, did not work out. With the Nets, it just never really could formulate anything. In the beginning, him and Durant couldn't really see the court together. A lot of injuries. But now you got to Kevin Durant with the Nets, he's all by himself now, and he's a little frustrated, as you can see. Him and Kyrie are supposed to be this duo in Brooklyn for a long time, but now there's nothing there. So when it comes to the question, will they trade Durant? I disagree. I don't think he'll get traded. A lot of talks of it. The organization really wants to keep Kevin there, and unless there's something really good to offer, I mean, this is Kevin Durant. He's still a top 5 player in the league, still unguardable, and it's going to have to take a lot to get him out of Brooklyn. But if a team can do it, that means Nets would be in full rebuild mode, but they would have a lot to work with. But really, right now with the Nets, we've seen the emergence of Cam Thomas the past 4 games. 21-year-old coming out of nowhere with 2 40-pointers in a row, but it's not enough to compete in the East. We've seen before with Durant. As it was shown with Golden State, he needs weapons to win. Not saying that that's really the case, but the only time we've ever seen him be a champion is when he's got 3 other guys around him. The East is too stacked to win. That's probably why he's upset. He knows that the season's going to end up being a failure. Maybe an early exit in the playoffs. I don't know. You can add on to that, but I don't think he's going to leave, but I think it's going to be an upsetting end of the year for him.
Yeah, so I'm hoping the mic situation is a little bit better. Who knows? Wi-Fi is just insanely unstable up here. But going back to some of the comments from some of the viewers, David Rosca commented Durant is not going to be traded. We got Joseph also commenting that Durant won't be traded. Brian said that unless they're absolutely wild Thursday, he disagrees to the poll. He thinks that Durant, unless they're wild, isn't going to be moved. He liked the Kyrie return for them, makes them a little bit deeper. A few more. We got KZ saying that Ben Simmons has single-handedly imploded the Nets, and he loves every bit of it. We will get to the Ben Simmons aspect of it in a little bit. We also have in the chat, as we scroll down here, we got...
I like the big one. Your connection's better.
Oh, yeah.
You figured something out.
I guess it's the mic. I'm going to have to look into that too. Who knows? It didn't seem like anything was ever wrong with it. But we got Philly saying Sixers potentially talk about a KD trade per Keith Pompey. No significant movement in it, but talks developing. We'll see what happens there. I personally, we'll get to what I think in a little bit. KZ says Tobias would be in that Durant trade, and then we got KZ saying, "Yeah, my connection is better now." So, maybe it is magic. Maybe I'm playing with some different things behind the scenes here. But in all seriousness, I was very surprised that he got traded to Dallas, and we're starting off with Kyrie because. One, the trade request comes out of nowhere. And you look at these standings where, let's face it, the Nets are in prime position for playoffs. They dropped down to 5th, but they were previously in 4th. That you have 2 of the best players in the world on the same team. And, you make that Ben Simmons trade, and you're trying to, deepen the roster. Simmons brings all this to the table, and that's blown up in spectacular fashion, just basically proving that, hey, Simmons is the epitome of wasted talent, to put it lightly, because he can't stay on the court, and when he's on the court, he's a broken basketball player right now. So Kyrie asked out, and it's funny because the more things change, the more they stay the same. In the sense of Kyrie situation, when he requested the trade in the first place, when he quote unquote wanted out in the first place, it was always about the contract. And the issue was boiling down to the Nets weren't going to give him the fully guaranteed contract. They weren't going to give him all the money. There was going to be stipulations. There was going to be, there was a potentially a stipulation that they had to reach the championship in order for him to get his guaranteed money. All these stipulations in there to the point where Irving, and whether you like the player, dislike the player, like the person, dislike the person, he is one of the best pure basketball talents in the NBA. And trading him is a challenge regardless, because you take the talent, you take everything that's happened off the court. But for him to implode your season like that, and for a trade to come together so fast, I'm not gonna lie here. Did I like the return Brooklyn got? Yeah, I thought it was decent. I also think the trade was made out of spite. I think the trade was made out of spite, and I don't know how that works considering they sent him to one of the better Western Conference teams. But they didn't send him to LA with LeBron, where, let's face it, they were getting 2 firsts instead of 1. They didn't send him to Phoenix, where they probably would have got a better package. So were you just getting rid of him to get rid of him and send him to the quote-unquote worst situation in terms of, hey, we don't know if him and Luka are going to be able to coexist, in the sense of, let's try to just make Kyrie's, situation more difficult. Like, obviously you don't know these situations, but when you have reports coming out there that the Nets purposely asked for Rui Hachimura in a trade, knowing that making that sort of trade is completely illegal because Hachimura just got traded, and reports coming out that that's the owner of the team purposely didn't want to send him to LA because that's what Kyrie wanted. Just, I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. It seems like some shady stuff going on in my eyes.
He's been known to be a salty owner, and he takes things personal. And as we've seen, Kyrie's time in Brooklyn was a lot of things happened. There's a lot of off the court stuff, a lot of on the court, and really not a lot of results for basketball things to show for it. I mean, they didn't win anything. They never made it to a conference final. So, or did they when they beat the Bucks, or the Bucks beat them? Was that conference final? No.
They never made a conference.
They didn't do anything. So it really comes down to that side. I like that, despite I didn't really think of it that way. Because, I mean, the Lakers did offer a better package when it comes down to it. And you know what? Westbrook and Durant would have been pretty cool to see together again.
It would have been hilarious. Cool is the wrong word. It would have been absolutely hilarious to say.
I mean, just when it comes down to it. And then people are saying that, I mean, we all know Luka is the primary ball handler down there in Dallas. And Kyrie's going to want the ball in his hands too. But when we saw Kyrie and LeBron together in Cleveland, there was no issues. I mean, that duo was, frankly, one of the best duos we saw in NBA history. I'll make a claim for that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up there.
I think for me, what it comes down to, as in the chat, we got KZ saying the Kyrie trade was made 100% out of spite. A reporter leaked Joe's side, didn't want to give Kyrie what he wanted. Personal decision. Yeah, I mean, it got to a point where he took the first deal that wouldn't give Kyrie a situation he wanted. Because let's face it, he goes to Phoenix. He probably is the primary ball handler, because let's face it, Devin Booker is a lot more off ball in a sense than Kyrie is. He goes to LA. Kyrie would be the number 1 ball handler. LeBron would get his touches, but LeBron wants people to help take the load off his back. He's 38 years old, having to put up 25 a night. KZ also says he wanted to see Westbrook and Simmons would have been some of the best entertainment on television. Yeah, you got that right. And you never know. That always could still happen in a different trade.
That would be must-watch basketball for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. I'm just very intrigued by, one, how it impacts Brooklyn, because, look, Cam Thomas isn't going to score 40 every night, but he turns into a 25, 30-point-a-night player. The Nets are going to end up a 4 or 5 seed, because when KD gets back, him having another scorer like that is going to help a lot. In terms of the Dallas fit, we've never seen Luka with a domineering presence next to him. And it's going to be funny because this could be a situation of reaping what you sow, in the sense of, okay, we wanted Luka to get help. If he gets help now, how does that affect the team dynamics? How does that affect Luka himself? And this specifically relates to New York basketball because the Knicks have their first round draft pick. So, could Kyrie potentially drop a nuke with that team chemistry and tank their season? Could he come in and elevate the Mavericks to, let's face it, the favorite potentially in a wide open Western Conference? There's multiple possibilities in that situation. I'm just personally intrigued in how that's going to go. And now that comes back to our question of the day, the Kevin Durant question. The Nets will trade Kevin Durant. And I'm going to be completely honest right now. At this point, trade deadline, no shot. No shot the Nets trade him. They're going to try and make something work. I think depending on the results of the season, you could see a trade in the offseason for Durant. Because let's face it, KD's a guy that, as much as people like to clown on him, he's very upfront about what he wants. I think he's very upfront about now where he wants to be. And he's always been vocal. He's the guy that goes back and forth with people on social media, on Twitter. He gets into arguments with Shaq for no reason. So, keeping that in mind, I guess what it comes down to for me is, what do the Nets do right now to ensure that they have the best roster possible? And to me, if you want to add to that, I think that's what it comes down to, where KD, I don't think gets traded now unless the Sixers throw 75 draft picks at, Philly, or Phoenix literally trades their entire roster or half their roster for KD. Barring some absurd development, I feel like the Nets have to make a concerted effort to build around KD right now, or else he's probably going to leave in the offseason. That, do you agree with that, or are you a little bit different in your
thinking? I disagree with the poll, like I said before, and I do agree with that. Like you said, another way to put it is Kevin Durant wants to win. That's another thing. Being vocal, he wants to win, and he's not afraid to say it. I don't see a possibility with the Nets winning. Hey, they got 2 more days, not even, kind of, till Thursday, to make a move. They said they're open to making a move. When it comes down to maybe possibly trading Kevin Durant, their ears are going to be open. I mean, they're going to be listening for everything that comes in, but I don't think any team is going to be willing to give what they want for a caliber player like Kevin Durant. The offseason, I agree with you fully. I think it's going to be very exciting. This could be a time that we finally see Kevin Durant. I know there's always been talks about him maybe going to Miami before he went to Brooklyn. And there's a lot of teams that would give everything to have a guy like Kevin Durant come. And unless the Nets make a move, I mean, players are going to be seeing now that it's a little shaky playing Brooklyn. There's been a lot of issues in Brooklyn lately, and I don't think anyone's going to want to come play there. So I think the possibility of Kevin Durant being shipped in the offseason is it's going to happen.
Is that the guy the Knicks unload the draft picks for?
There's the Knicks. The Knicks have never.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying.
Oh, it's the Knicks every year. I mean, what year was it? Was it with Zion? Who are the guys on that? I want to bring that up.
That was the Knicks had the worst record in basketball. The Knicks were the favorites for Kyrie and KD, and they got none of them.
None of them. Hey, maybe it's the time. You know what? And you know what? As a Knicks fan, I think you'd be so happy to see Kevin Durant in that uniform.
Interesting. Marcus brought something to my attention. The Sacramento Kings are closing on a deal with Brooklyn to acquire Nets forward Kessler Edwards. So, Kessler Edwards is more of like a back end rotation player, but why are the Nets trading guys away? Are they gearing up for a move? Are they? Very, very interesting. I'm very intrigued that that shouldn't be a trade that really dictates anything, but why are the Nets trading away more?
I'd be very curious to see what the Nets
get back in return,
get
right?
for
a
guy like Kessler Edwards. I mean, when it comes down to it, the guy barely sees the floor.
He's like a back end of the rotation player. The Nets are finalizing a trade to send forward Kessler Edwards and cash to the Kings. That's according to Woj.
Something might be brewing, but maybe it's nothing. Maybe Sacramento saw something in Mr. Edwards. I mean, Sacramento's still in the standings. They're fighting for their third. They're having a
fight in Sacramento's one of the best teams in the West.
Hell of a year. I mean, they're really. It was funny at the beginning of the year when they brought up the light with the wind light, and everyone was clowning them, saying that light's never gonna be lit. And they're having a phenomenal year for the first time in a long time.
KZ says in the chat, this would be a great time for Morey to get Seth Curry back. Yes, but the Nets are in contention. I don't see a reason why they would be selling players off. Right?
It's gonna be. The league still has a lot to come till Thursday. There's gonna be a lot of moves. I still think the Lakers are gonna make a move.
Yeah, so
the Lakers are gonna do something.
So Sam, what do you call it? Sam Vicente of the Athletic said this is obviously a pure salary dump for Brooklyn. Saves around $7 million-ish in luxury tax by getting off an Edwards deal. So that makes sense. I guess clearing cap room. I don't know what you're clearing cap room for right now, unless you're trying to pursue someone. Maybe a Fred VanVleet is in Brooklyn's future, which I think would be a good addition for them. Give them a different type of point guard. Who knows though? How many days is the deadline in? Is it next
Thursday?
Week? It is Thursday. Yeah. We talked about this. Oh, KZ says Sean Marks hasn't always been the brightest bulb in the room. We got to strike when we can. I mean, yeah, but between Joe Tsai and Sean Marks continuing the Brooklyn way, I guess. I don't know. It's just I'm just very intrigued. And this talking about another trade, this ties perfectly into what I want to talk about in terms of basketball, because like you said, the trade deadline is Thursday. And shifting to more of a Knicks focus, Knicks are coming off of a win against the Philadelphia 76ers this past Sunday. Looking at the standings, they are in 7th, but they are a half game behind the Heat for the 6th seed. And, obviously with Brooklyn getting, kind of shooken up with the Kyrie trade, maybe there's a shot you catch Brooklyn and you get all the way up to that 5 seed. But I think looking at the trade deadline, nothing's really changed. Obviously, getting a guy like OG Anunoby would be fantastic. I don't think that's happening. Report came out that the asking price is too high currently for the Knicks and Nets. So, kind of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone for us there. I'm looking towards a Caruso trade, like something like that, or a Grayson Allen trade. Maybe you try to get a guy like Jordan Vanderbilt. Like that rumor's been floating around. It's just I know a lot of Knicks fans want to be like, oh, we should trade for Zach LaVine or trade for a star, go after KD. I don't think that's going to happen because I think the Knicks are going to just add around the edges to their roster. I think it's more of let's get another good perimeter defender that can maybe hit the three ball a little bit and get another backup forward that or something along those lines. And be honest, I think the bigger moves of the deadline are going to be the Knicks trading away Cam Reddish. Going to be trading away probably Evan Fournier. I hope not Obi Toppin or RJ Barrett, but you never know. We got Marcus in the chat saying, Bobby Mark says 3 first-rounders for OG Anunoby. You know, that's that's a high price. That's a high price for a guy that isn't a, like, quote-unquote superstar. So, Toomey, in terms of the Knicks, do you think more of, like, auxiliary moves are going to be what they do, or do you think they take the big swing?
I don't see a big swing going on. And anyway, what was I saw something about RJ Barrett and Coach Tibbs the other day. I'm curious about that because I know RJ Barrett's been on a little bit of a slump lately. And I know we'll get back to the trades, but I was just curious if that has anything to play with what's going on in the Knicks front office and just with the players in general.
I think from what I saw, it just boiled down to RJ wasn't happy that he got benched over the back half of that one game. And he played right away after that. And, you know, I was at the game Sunday, and it was weird because at first, you know, if you ever been to a basketball game, the starting lineups are announced, they do the intros, and literally right before tip-off, the PA announcer goes, Emmanuel Quickley has replaced RJ Barrett in the starting lineup. And everyone's just looking around like, what? What do you mean? He ends up having an illness. At first, everyone thought he possibly got traded. But, you know, that's the type of thing where the fact that those rumors have even been out there, everyone's like, oh, maybe RJ's traded. And RJ, for me, has been the most frustrating Knicks player because he shows these signs of being such a good player, and then he goes 6 of 19 shooting from it's just the highest the highs and the lowest the lows. So maybe improving him is something you do in the offseason. I don't think that's something you do now. I'm personally not trading 3 firsts for OG Anunoby, but I don't think it to. As I got like 10 feet away from your question, I don't think it's an organizational problem between Tibbs and RJ. Now, if you said that with Cam Reddish and the org, yes. You said that with maybe Obi Toppin a little bit and the org, I would be able to argue for that because those have been guys that have been affected by some of the decision making, specifically Tom Thibodeau has made as the head coach.
But yeah, back to what you were saying in the beginning about the trade. Yes, Cam Reddish is going to get shipped out by Thursday. There's been a lot of teams looking at him, a lot of talks about him. And you brought up a guy that I am such a fan of, Alex Caruso. Again, I probably said on here before, it was probably one of my least favorite trades or just not paying when the Lakers did not sign Alex Caruso. They just didn't offer him as much money. He was like, I want to be a Laker. And you know what? They didn't give him anything at all. So he went to Chicago, and I was very upset about that. They lost a great player who really worked well in the system. He worked well with LeBron too, which it's hard to see some players work well with LeBron in a lot of ways, but him and LeBron were a good duo. I mean, on the court, they were phenomenal together. So, but besides the Lakers talk, I think he'd be a great addition to a Knicks team. I think you'd like to see him too. I don't think they're going to make a big swing. It's been a while since the Knicks made a big swing in a trade deadline, if I'm not incorrect there. I think it's just time to wait. Just wait. Have the season play out and see what they can make in a playoff run. But if they can get a guy like Alex Caruso, it'd be a real good addition to the team.
I just think it's like, at the end of the day, you have to consider the best use of assets. The Knicks have so many draft picks. Why would you just jump at the first sign of being able to use them? You got to wait for the right opportunity. You got to build up that roster and then see, shockingly, a Luka Doncic or a John Moran or Zion Williamson comes available. That's when you strike. That's when you go after it. And obviously, you have to play the part of we're stuck in purgatory at the 6, 7, 5 seeds. We need to make a move versus, we can't mismanage our assets. It's a very fine line. It's very interesting. Basketball is so different from other sports in that regard, where draft picks have so much more value, and teams that accumulate them, you see teams that fail in how to use them and teams that succeed in how to use them. And transitioning, the Brooklyn Nets are one of those teams that failed in utilizing their assets, because let's face it, and I think that this is the honest truth. The Nets failed in building their roster. The Harden, KD, Kyrie experiment was a complete failure. You could argue one of the biggest failures in NBA and sports history, considering the pedigree of the players that were acquired. But all three of them are potentially Hall of Fame level players in terms of talent.
No, they are. 100% they are. They're all first ballots. I mean, no jab to the NBA Hall of Fame, but it is the easiest of the sports Hall of Fames to make. We see guys who are like 2-time All-Star, 3-time All-Stars with no real accolades make it. So those are all first ballots. Those are three of the best players we've seen growing up playing the game.
Exactly. I mean, you could argue like Chris Bosh, is he a Hall of Famer? Who knows? Borderline. He's probably going to get in.
Oh yeah.
Like obviously Dwayne Wade's a Hall of Famer, LeBron,
100%.
but like Melo,
he better be a Hall of Famer.
Exactly. But in a different sport, you could argue Melo is like a Phillip Rivers in the sense of insane regular season player, great player. NFL puts so much more weight on the rings than the NBA.
Yeah.
And rings are important for the legacy, but the numbers are so much more important in the NBA, in my eyes at least, because you see like you could argue in a sense, like people are going to argue that Derek Rose should get Hall of Fame consideration to an extent. Like there's going to be someone that argues that. You don't really get that in any other sport.
Oh no, yeah.
No, but like that's what I'm saying. It's like you will find people that will bring that up and say, oh, like this fringe player, yeah, he should probably get a little bit of consideration.
Just think about to your point. Sorry, I was looking something up. The a guy like Derrick Rose, he in the NBA is a Hall of Famer, and he won an MVP. Right? I think that's all you need to make it to the NBA Hall of Fame, and he's had a phenomenal career. When you look at it, never really got to win, but really he's done a lot in the league, and he's 100% Hall of Famer. But in another sport, if you throw him in baseball, I mean, guys like Derek Jeter didn't get all the votes. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame, but like someone was like, I don't think Derek Jeter should be in the Hall of Fame, which is crazy.
Exactly. So, once again, getting off our little sidetracks, the Nets need to make auxiliary additions. And I understand the thought process, you got to add another star. I don't think that's the case, because you honestly get a good ball handler for Durant. I like whether that's on the roster or use some of your assets that you have now to go get one. Fred VanVleet, I know that's a little bit higher priced. I think that's a perfect move. get shooters around Durant. You have Cam Thomas coming into his own. Add something else to that. Add maybe another player or two to that. Because if you allow Durant to have attention taken off of him, you are making your team a million times better. If you are allowing guys to be on the court that can score with Durant and not run into a situation where we've seen this happen when Kevin Durant gets triple teamed and the Nets still can't score on possessions, you need guys that are threats to put the ball in the hoop. That is what the Nets' main key needs to be. You have Claxton, very important asset to the team. You have Cam Thomas, you have KD. If Ben Simmons plays like 40% near his capabilities, you have a decent player, maybe. But you need to add. You need to add to this roster because as a team, number one, you are in a high playoff seed. You need to keep that. And number two, and this is, I think, the more important aspect that I think isn't talked about enough right now. And when we come back to it in the offseason, if the Nets don't figure it out now, this deadline may be one of the reasons why Kevin Durant asks out of Brooklyn.
And yeah, as a Nets fan, it really I'm from that time when they had Harden, Kyrie, and Durant all come together. It seemed like they were the next trio. They were the next coming of everything. And at the end of the day, now they're just down to Durant, and then you got an unhappy Durant. And I like the point you made that this trade deadline could be the decision that really squashes everything. Like the Nets are one move away with Durant leaving to going back to a rebuild.
And they don't have their picks.
No. Well, if Durant leaves, they're going to get a lot. He's not a free agent, is he?
I think 2 more years.
Yeah, so if he leaves, they're going to get a lot.
But it's a matter of all their own assets. They're all gone in the Harden deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no, it was we see it all the time. It was an experiment. It didn't work. Like you said before, it's probably one of the worst case scenarios we've ever seen in the sport. But you know what? They just got to keep going through the season. There's no reason to scratch the season. They're in a good position. They still have talent. They still have one of the best players in the world. So there's still a lot to look forward to and a lot of hope. I think hope will be the big word for the Nets at the coming down the road to the end of the season. But you never know. Anything can happen.
1,000%. Is there a target you have in mind for Brooklyn potentially besides Van Vliet?
I liked what you said before Van Fleet. I don't think I haven't seen. I've been looking on my phone the whole day. I haven't seen anything else. But no, just try and get as much as you can around Kevin. Make him happy. I know they're in a lot of talks right now. The front office and Kevin are in a back and forth. Hopefully they're giving him what he wants, and hopefully it's not really just a downhill conversation where he's upset for the rest of the year. Because he's the type of player where he'll be like, you know what, screw this, I'm not playing. Like, why? I know what I have. Everyone knows what I have to offer to this league. I'm one of the greatest scorers of all time. I don't need to be here and play for this. I'll sit out. I'll wait till next year. Be nice and healthy.
Exactly. And, before we move on to the Super Bowl stuff, which I personally am very excited about, because this is the first time we're doing this on the show. It won't be the last time. I think there's a huge debate question that needs to be asked. And this revolves around a specific era in the NBA that I think, well, my take will get into that. I personally think that this Brooklyn Nets team ended the Big Three era in the NBA. I think that the NBA is still star-reliant as much as it's ever been, and I think as it will always be. But I think for now, this Nets experiment showed that the Big Three era is done, and that's more about duos and really surrounding your roster with as many talented players that can supplement and do different things. What do you think of that?
It's always, I mean, people always talk about how it used to always be duos. You have these duos, and then another guy. I mean, you go to Jordan, Pippen, Rodman. You got Kobe, Shaq, someone else. You got just guys play around him. But now it can lead that everyone wants to build these super teams. I would be very excited to see these super teams die and be done with. I think it was one of the worst things to ever happen to the NBA. I think it just made it less exciting. It really did. But like your point, I mean, every sport every sport's different with what you need, really. Like baseball, you need a full roster. Basketball, I think you just need 2 stars and put role players around them. Put guys that has their job. You have 2 superstars that can do everything, and then just have guys that do jobs. And when it comes out, you see that with the great teams still. You got the Celtics. The Celtics are the best team in the league, pretty much, right? Record-wise, standing-wise. You have the rare case where you got a Giannis, where he's the superstar, and then you got guys like Middleton and Holiday around him who aren't really, I wouldn't say superstars, but they're definitely up there. They're really solid players, and they definitely do a job. So I don't know. It comes down to I think you just need one superstar, and you just got to fit with what makes him happy. I don't know really how to put that into words, but everyone's different, obviously.
And I think to your point, the death of the Big Three era is because of the ever increasing level of talent in the league. Everybody in the NBA is insanely talented. Let's face it, it's the most talented I think the league's ever been. So, compared to when, let's say, LeBron's Big Three, I think the league is 10 times more talented than when all that was going on. And the reason a Big Three doesn't work right now is because the money you have to pay to those superstars, you are filling the rest of that roster with older veterans and back end of roster type players. When your superstars are on, guess what? You're all good. You're going to win games. But when you run into that team that has the superstar and the great shooter and the lockdown perimeter defender and the pure rebounder and another great perimeter shooter, you run into issues because these guys are still human. Yeah, they can't play the full 48. They can't play the full game. They have to.
Look at the Kawhi Raptors.
Yep.
I mean, you had guys emerging coming out like Van Fleet. That was his coming together party. Van Fleet was pretty much a big savior for that team. You had a guy like Serge Ibaka. But just to add to a point you made before about so much talent in the league, would you say that this is first time's a weird claim because, I mean, we didn't watch basketball way, way back in the day. But would you say that these stars are coming out at such a younger age now? Like when you guys that are coming right out of the draft and they're making big impacts. I mean, and especially too, we had these foreign players now. I love looking at this image always all the time that the top 4 of the top 5 players in the league are all international.
It's very interesting because I think it's two-pronged and it's a double-edged sword. A lot more superstars are coming in and dominating right off the bat. Specifically this year, Paolo Banchero looks like he belongs right away. The flip side and the double edge to this is we're not giving enough time for guys to develop. Take for example, in RJ Barrett. And I'm not saying RJ Barrett's ever going to be a superstar. But so many people are out on him, and he's only, 23, 24 years old?
Yeah.
He came into the league at 19 years old. Think about it. Oh. So many of these other leagues, the guys are coming in at 20, 21, 22. NBA has guys coming in at 18, 19. And look, some of these guys aren't going to reach their potential. But you look at the same time, look at a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who, when given the time to actually develop, is he a top 5 superstar? No. But he's a guy that's going to be in the league for another probably 7-8 years. He found the role. He developed. He contributed to a championship-winning basketball team. And I think that's a huge part of it. With the Big Three era being over, the emphasis is still on superstars, but I think a lot of fans, a lot of people need to realize that it's okay if a guy is the best perimeter lockdown in the league and isn't a great scorer, because that adds value to a championship team. That adds value to an organization. It's very similar to, I'd say, baseball. You have a guy that slowly shuts down left-handed bats as a lefty out of the bullpen. Guess what? No one's complaining about that guy because that guy's, one, getting his job done, and two, is getting paid a lot of money for his job. And I think you're seeing a lot of that in the NBA now. It's slowly moving towards it, but I think that evolution is going to continue.
I mean, just to add to something too, and then I think we got to get into the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, is, like you said before, we're seeing a lot more superstar caliber players in the league than we used to. Now, does this make a thing that I'm just curious, because I'm going through every team now. I'm just looking. I'm like, they got a guy. Is he a superstar? I'm looking at these guys like these are superstars. Is there going to have to be a new category? Like, because obviously when you look at, like, Jason Tatum's a superstar, correct?
Yes, 1,000%.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, superstar.
Yep.
But then you get a guy who's very important to his team. Like, do you put John Moran on the same level as them? He's a superstar too, isn't he? Or no?
Yes, but is he the same level as superstar?
So now we need a new little category.
Exactly.
What's above superstar, though? That's the question.
Franchise player. Or would that be below?
I think that's below.
So it would probably go franchise player
Then
and
superstar.
then superstar.
So the term superstar is being thrown around too much, I think.
It's the same term. It's the same thing as like generational talent.
Okay.
Like, oh, he's a generational talent. You say that every draft. There can't be a generational talent for five straight drafts.
Yeah, no.
So
no,
it's like,
curious, yeah.
It's a very interesting time in basketball. And, to come back full circle, when we're on here next week talking about the trade deadline, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what these teams did. And if we have any surprises, because if the NBA is known for anything, it's huge, gigantic surprises. So I think it's time to move on, because we got the big game this weekend. And it's a matchup that's, I think, going to be pretty good if everything goes right. We got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Kansas City Chiefs do you even know what number Super Bowl it is?
50. I thought everyone's 57, no?
I think it is 57.
57, yeah.
I don't know. I
watched a video of people like going through Roman numerals, and no one knew anything about Roman numerals.
I stopped. I honestly forget.
I think it's LV11 or II, LVII. But besides the point, go on. I'll get you your what Super Bowl it is.
So now,
57.
57. On today's episode of the show, we're bringing something a little bit new into the show. So, because the Super Bowl is, I think, widely considered the most bet on sporting event of the entire year, we're going to join in on the fun. So we are making the TCNS Super Bowl Parlay. That is the show's initials for anyone that doesn't know. So live on today's show, we are going to make a parlay. You guys can either ride with us, you guys can hedge us. I'm going to be fully transparent here. I have been a jinx. I at the Knicks game, I had a parlay. I missed out on it by 2 Jalen Brunson points. I also had another bet for a Julius Randle double-double, and I missed it by 1 rebound. So keep that in mind when we are doing our picks. But all things considered, we want to have a bit more fun, a bit more interactiveness on the show.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys have any parlays that you're doing, leave them in the comments below. Any prop bets that you're interested in, leave them below, and we can discuss it, because as we head towards further in the NBA season, as we head towards the NHL playoffs, and as MLB gets picked up, we're going to have a lot of, fun bets of the week and stuff we want to incorporate. So, Toomey, you want to add anything to that?
No, everyone loves sports, Ben. Why don't we gotta get involved? Come on.
Jeff with a fun comment.
Actually, it's funny though. Right last week, I said like, don't bet on the Lakers. Like, stay away from the Lakers. I think they won every game last week.
There we go. You're a jinx too.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Don't say that. Don't put that curse on me. Don't put that bad juju over here.
So we got KZ saying Super Bowl coming down to the 2-minute warning. Well, Andy Reid will have burnt all his timeouts. I'm calling it. And that's something that's happened before. Andy Reid is not exactly the maestro of clock management, to put it lightly. So to start off, to me, where do you want to look first?
Well, we're touching Super Bowl. Is that what we're going for?
I mean, anything revolving around the Super Bowl. I think just to keep it interesting, I think we got to start with the national anthem, right?
Oh, I forgot about all the fun ones.
We have fun with this. Come on.
Oh my God, no, I forgot they died the Gatorade color, the everything. Okay, no, yeah, this is gonna be good.
For those that don't know, our one of our good friends actually won a good amount of money guessing the Gatorade color. What was that? Last year or 2 years ago?
It was I
think it was Chiefs 2 years.
2 years.
2 years ago. And that there's a fun second half to that story that that we can talk about some other time. But our friend did not exactly get the warmest welcome from our organization we were a part of at that moment.
But for those, I'm gonna stay away from Gatorade because I don't want to lose someone money on a color Gatorade, which insider information, we don't know about that stuff until pretty much day before the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
But what I do know are, you could touch on a national anthem. The anthem always, and we could find stats on all of these things. I wish I did research before this, but sadly, we are still college students.
College students, yes, that is. Oh man, that is the truth. That is the truth. I'm trying to find it. Where's the? I guess we'll have to look up what are we thinking for the Super Bowl line in terms of the national anthem. Is there a line for this out there?
Well, here we go. I got all the. So the national anthem is going to be sung by Chris Stapleton. Country singer. Actually, a fan of Chris. He's
that should be a good one. That should be a good one.
Music. We never. But interesting. I mean, comes down to it. The time. I'll try and find the time for the national anthem. Let's see what we got. Coin toss specials. So usually the over-under for the national anthem is around 110 seconds.
So is that like the we got KZ saying college students feels bad. We're almost done, man. We're almost done. We're pushing forward. Yeah, but the what do you call it?
Just add this real fast. Can you hear the stuff going on in my background right now?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, they're good. We got a lot of activity at the cribbo right now.
Yeah, but I think for national anthem, what you said 110 seconds is usually
110 seconds usually. Right. I remember I hit with the over last year. I do recall.
So with Stapleton, let's go with the over. Let's go with the over. So
but now with the fun ones where we got a lot of talent on that field.
All right.
We talked so much about Chris Stapleton. How about the players on the field? Come on now.
All right. So looking at the spread, this is a 1.5 spread. So this is a borderline pick'em game, right? I'm going to go with, I'll toss it to you. Do you want to do a money line or do you want to do a spread? Because I feel like 1.5, you're running into so much where
when I usually see spreads like this, I usually go with money line because they're so low. The odds that a game is going to end with a 2-point lead, I would love to see the numbers on that because every time I bet, I've never seen a 2-point win. So when I go in that, I go with money line. And just to add on to it, I've been saying it for the past couple times on this show. I think the NFC East is going to win the Super Bowl. So now I have to say, fly, Eagles, fly. It's going home to the Birds. As much as people have their hate for Philly and their sports teams, I think the Birds are going to pull this out. I think they just seem like the more complete team. And I'm riding the money line if with going for it.
All right, so we're going with the Eagles money line here.
When it comes down to the money line I'm looking at is minus 122. The spread's minus 110, so it's really no point to stray away. You might as well go with the spread then, I guess, if it makes more sense. But
so
unless you think,
I mean, we're doing this as a duo, so we are we both got to agree. I say we go with Eagles money line. Just don't run into issues with the spread.
it's not worth it.
Yeah, just
right.
But like you mentioned, with it being that close, I think just doing the spread is, I think just doing money line is the best there.
There we go.
All right, so
fly.
I'm going to add a prop now. I am going to go with a Miles Sanders touchdown at plus 120. And I'm also going to go with as we just for full transparency, we are writing these down so we can come back to you guys next week and see how well we did. So we are going Miles Sanders touchdown. So this is anytime touchdown score. And we are also going with, you know what? I'll toss to you. I did one. Who do you want to do as an anytime touchdown scorer?
When it comes down, I saw one name, and I think he's got the best odds out of anyone. You know what? I don't like that. But Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is a safe option. He's pretty much I'm not gonna say all Mahomes got because that's kind of a little rude to the other weapons Mahomes has. But really,
all of his weapons are hurt.
But Travis Kelce has always been his guy. He is his guy. I actually saw a weird stat the other day that since 2016, Travis Kelce leads the league in yards, which that came to people with the conversation. They're like, can he even really be considered a tight end since he's used as a wide receiver? But really he's not. He's used in the tight end position. He's running tight end routes. He's just a different player. But Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown safe is one of the safest things you can do. But just looking at other names, I like a guy like you did an Eagle. I'm going to go with a Chief. So I like.
Are we not adding Kelce to the parlay?
We could add Kelce. I mean, we could have different ones too. So I'll write Mr. Travis Kelce's name down.
All right, sounds good. So far we got over 110 seconds on the anthem. Eagles money line, Miles Sanders touchdown, Travis Kelce touchdown. So where do you want to move next?
Well, we're just throwing things out. I don't even think you can parlay these things together right now, but we can find that out.
We'll find that out very soon.
But no way. Or we're just coming up with different bets that we like. But just adding on to it, the what did I want to say? It was something about the Eagles. And this team is just.
I think an underrated one is Kenny Gainwell. Looking at his odds, he is plus 360 to score. I'm gonna personally go with that as well.
Especially with football, I've never been one to safe bet the NFL during the season. If it's not a phone number for a payout, I don't really want to do it. So that's the fun. Oh my god, nothing better during the season than just throwing crazy things and then throwing $2 on it and see where it goes. But Kenny Gainwell, I like it. I know they've had they really like to use all their running backs in Philly. And it just comes down to I like Pachero.
What?
Pacheco. Sorry, Pacheco. Not Pacheco.
Gotta respect the born and raised in Jersey, man.
And then when it comes down to it, I mean, they have Jalen Hurts as the next best odds for an anytime touchdown.
Yeah, I'm personally looking at it. You know, we have over 110 seconds. Eagles money line, Sanders, Kelsey, and Gainwell. Personally, I think for the show's parlay, like we're just gonna put all these bets together, see what happens with it. I think those three are your best options because you have two likely ones and one shot in the dark. So now it's a matter of where do you want to move? Do you want to move to correct score? Do you want to look at maybe an alternate spread plus 2 touchdowns? Do you want to look at passing props, receiving props, kicker props, buy sell points? Like what are we thinking?
It's trying to figure out what. So it's weird because we've seen this Eagles team and we're trying to. You try and look at previous games to see what might happen. I mean, it's forecasting. I mean, you see it in everything. But when it comes down to it, this team can beat you in every way. We've seen it all year. They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. And they've had games where they do different things. I mean, we saw against the Packers, they ran down the Packers' throat. I mean, I don't even think Jalen Hurts really threw the ball. I mean, they ran for over 300 yards, I think, and they had multiple touchdowns on the ground. And then you have games where they beat you through the air. So try and predict. Seeing this playoffs as it happened, even though they've wiped out every team they've played when it comes to the Giants and 49ers, it's been done on the run. We've seen Miles Sanders have a big game against 49ers last week. The first game was Boston Scott. Guys like Boston Scott, even Boston Scott getting into the action, he's been known to be the giant killer. But it comes down to just picking. How do you think this game's going to play out when you go through these predictions in your head?
So look, this ties nicely into something because looking at the props, Jalen Hurts' line for passing is at 238.5 yards. Pat Mahomes is at 292.5. So, also looking at rushing, Hurts' line is at 49.5. I personally think for the show, we go with over 238.5 for Hurts passing yards. I feel like that's a number he can eat. I feel like, especially facing a team with Mahomes, that's a line that I think can easily get surpassed. What do you think about that?
No, I like the you're saying the Mahomes prop.
No, I'm saying Hurts.
Oh, Hurts. No, I like the Hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, Mahomes, that's a lot of yards. But when it comes down to it,
and that's against a very good Eagles defense. I could see more touchdowns and less yards out of Mahomes, but I don't see him throwing for like 350 on this Eagles defense.
No, I don't see that as well. It just comes down to like, I think Mahomes is a good player that I think the Eagles are going to be in control during the game. But Mahomes is the type of guy that we've seen, unless we go back to 2 Super Bowls ago with the Buccaneers, that he was actually – the team was dominated, but Mahomes was still good. Mahomes was making some of the craziest plays we've ever seen a quarterback make. I think Mahomes is going to keep them in this game as much as possible. If this game is a blowout, then then this Eagles team is one of the greatest teams we've ever seen.
Oh,
I really think so.
1,000%.
So this game – if it's not a shootout, it's going to be close. But if it is a shootout, it's also going to be close because Mahomes is going to keep them in this game as much as possible. As much as that sounded weird coming out of my mouth. So, I mean, rambling on, but I'm just saying, like, it's going to, I don't know, because I keep saying these games are going to be close, and they keep screwing. But no, go back to it. I like the Hurts over.
So, I guess to look at some of the receiving props, player rushing yards, passing touchdowns, receiving yards. Yeah, you got Goddard at 50.5, line Devonta Smith 63.5, AJ Brown 72.5, Kelsey 79.5, McKinnon 22.5. I think that's very interesting. Miles Sanders 4.5. Isaiah Pacheco 16.5, Kenny Gainwell 11.5, Quez Watkins 12.5. these are receiving props. That like those are the lines for some of those guys. So I think if anything, the Gainwell prop sticks out to me. 11.5 seems extremely low for him. Sanders, 4.5 for a prop seems extremely low for me. It's just like all you need is Miles Sanders to have one reception. And I know he's not usually on the field for these downs, but it's a Super Bowl. Crazy things can happen. So what are you thinking with any of those props?
I like the Gainwell with you. I like to stay away from the Eagles receivers because it usually seems like one has a big day, the other one has a good game.
100%.
So staying away from them, especially staying away from, I think even
Goddard.
Chiefs receivers too, because you never know who's going to have the big game for them. I think if you're going to go with a Chief receiver, it's got to be Valdez-Scantling. I like the Goddard. There's going to be a tight end game. I mean, these are two of the best receiving tight ends in the league, one way above the other one. So, no, I like the we can go with a Goddard.
You want to go with Goddard over 50?
Yeah, we can go with Goddard. Just okay. Goddard over.
Yep. All right, so just for anyone that hasn't heard, we are over 110 seconds on the national anthem. Eagles money line, Miles Sanders touchdown, Travis Kelce touchdown, Kenny Gainwell touchdown, Hurts over 238.5 passing yards, Goddard over 50 yards receiving. And I think, do you want to do one more and then the Gatorade color, or do you want to do just Gatorade color now?
I want to throw one more bet in, but it has nothing to do with overs. You probably can't parlay this with anything, but if you can do Travis Kelce 2 touchdowns.
What odds are on that?
I'm looking right now.
So do you want to take the Kelce touchdown bet out and just have Travis Kelce 2 touchdowns?
No, you can keep that in because I don't even think you can really parlay most of this, but just to throw that out there.
All right. So not even necessarily have to be a parlay. These are just the show picks at this point.
I'm looking. I can't. They have so many bets you can possibly do for the Super Bowl that it's so hard to find just the most simple things.
One other special I wanted to add is I think there's going to be 4 touchdowns in each half.
Wow, 4 each.
Just 4 total touchdowns in each half.
You can bet that?
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm not sure because Eagles defense is pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be a shootout. That's the thing. It's like 4 touchdowns in each half. That's pretty extensive.
That is a lot of touchdowns.
You know what? I'm going to switch that. I think there's going to be 1 field goal in each quarter.
You can bet that too?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, they really give you the opportunity to bet whatever you want for the Super Bowl.
All right. And so
we have a bunch of stuff on this list.
I think the last thing we have to do is Gatorade color.
Gatorade color. We'll throw a Gatorade color out there.
All right. Do you want we want to mentally spin the wheel, or do we just want to say one of the team's colors?
Let's see. Well, we'll go with this right now. What's your favorite Gatorade?
Blue. 100%.
Blue?
Blue.
I mean, when you look at it, the best odds are for yellow. I don't really think many people like yellow the most. I think that's a trap. I think yellow's a trap
I
color.
feel like red. I'm feeling red.
Red for these teams?
Yes. But then again, I feel like that's too easy. Chiefs have red.
I would love to see.
Let's go with blue. I feel like.
All right, go blue.
Blue.
It's funny to see as we get closer to the Super Bowl with all the just people with these bettings talking, and they're like all the inside scoops that everyone has. They're like, look at the colors that we have right here. Who's going to win? So it's a really fun week for the sport. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully these bets, some of these hit.
Yeah, my rudimentary thought process is blue is not a color that is with any of these teams, so it's just not like, it's unexpected. You're not going to expect blue. So basically, what we're doing with these bets is I will have them posted on my Twitter. You guys can follow along during the game, and we will see how many of these bets we actually hit. Am I a jinx? Is Toomey a jinx? Are we actually prophets at this? I guess we're going to have to wait and find out then, aren't we?
We definitely will. We'll come up. We'll put something together with these parlays too. We'll throw something together, and you'll throw it on Twitter, so it'll be good.
Yeah, 100%. And if you guys have any bets that you want to let us know that you're doing, if you want to follow along with us, leave that below. You guys know my Twitter. My Twitter is @bpoc24. Toomey's is something. He's not an avid Twitter user.
My Twitter is I sent it to you actually. I'm not a big Twitter guy. Maybe I'll become a big Twitter guy. It's Ryan Toomey 23.
So follow along with us there. And I guess the last thing we're talking about is some hockey. Nothing like finishing out a show with some hockey, right?
Love hockey. We had some exciting games last night. I know I was watching.
Jacob Trouba, man. Absolute freight train. Absolute freight train. We love to see it. You know what? It's good that the Rangers got some of that edge. Got to be hated sometimes. Hatred is love. That makes literally no sense. But
I'm not one to turn on the Rangers games, but you know what? The Devils game ended, and I was like, you know what? They're going OT2. I got to tune in, check it out. I know we had a show the next day, so to be as informed as possible would be good.
Yeah. So as it currently stands, the Metro standings, I don't think they've changed. It's still Hurricanes, Devils, Rangers, Capitals. Rangers have a 4-point lead on the Capitals. They're 6 behind the Devils. The Devils are 6 behind the Hurricanes. Boston is still dominating the Atlantic, followed by Toronto and Tampa Bay. And then it's just a wide combination of teams. I mean, the Penguins, Islanders, Flyers, Sabres, Panthers, Senators, Red Wings, they're all very close to each other, which is very interesting. Islanders making the Bo Horvat move last week. They now have extended him for 7 years. Hockey contracts are so interesting, man. I swear.
They are. They really are. There's it really has to do, I think, with just
the salary cap. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Which I'm a fan of it with the sports. I think it keeps. I don't know. It keeps everyone. I know I've had some hashback when talking to people about it, but like it really keeps the playing field fair. I really think when it comes down to it. I mean, I just like to look at when you got an owner like the MLB. We see these guys. Like, when will the Pirates ever win or have a team that can win?
But the answer with that isn't salary cap, though. That's what I feel. The Pirates situation is hockey is a sport where salary cap works because it's a bigger roster. And
yes.
Well, let me rephrase that. It's a smaller roster, but and quite frankly, the money isn't as lush as it is in baseball or football or basketball. Salary cap works in football because if you didn't have a salary cap, all the best players would be on like 3 teams because no one would be outbid. If you had no salary cap in the NBA, well, all hell would break loose, to be quite honest with you. The reason it works in baseball is because you have so many different roster spots, and quite frankly, 1 or 2 guys it influences a team, it makes the team better, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. That's the way I see it. And also with baseball, there's other measures in place. But I've never been a big proponent of salary cap because specifically with baseball, if I my line of thinking is, if you can't support a team, if you're not going to pay for your team to be the best, sell it. Get someone else in there that will.
It is tough to see a franchise fall short because of issues like that. But back to hockey with that. Yes, contracts are weird. If you had a player like McDavid in any other sport, he's making
$200 million plus.
Oh my God, so much more. I mean, they don't make that much. But back to it. Trade deadline. It's March 3rd, I believe, for hockey. A lot of excitement. There's a lot of good players that are waving around. I saw some news that the Rangers are on looks for guys, especially a guy like Patrick Kane, Patrick Kane's an exciting player. Yes, he's old. Yes, he's had injury issues. But a guy that can bring a lot of excitement to a playoff caliber team and really be a big help. I mean, he's one of the greatest players we've seen in the playoffs in the past couple of years. So I think that'd be a great addition to the team. I know my Devils are looking to make a move as well. So really a lot of exciting stuff. But comes down to it, just touch on the two games last night. Both Devils and Rangers went to OT. Tied 4-4 against their opponents. Devils played the Canucks. Rangers played the Flames. Both teams won in OT. Devils got Mr. Jack Hughes, who is the man. Great quote came out the other day. Mr. Wayne Gretzky said Jack Hughes is probably the closest thing to McDavid, which is crazy to say because McDavid's unbelievable. And Wayne Gretzky is the greatest hockey player of all time. So just to touch on the sport, do you have anything else to say about it? I mean,
the funniest thing for me about Jack Hughes is I remember, I think I talked to you, it might have been last year or the year before. Hughes, Devils fans hated Hughes.
I would say hate.
Not hated, but they're like, they were very disappointed. They're like, why isn't this guy good? And now he's like one of the best players in the league.
He was showing a lot of signs last year. And then he had an injury, and there's no point to put him back on the ice because they were non-contention for anything. It was a poor season. But yes, no, and that's what you were talking about before. It comes down to the point. He was 18 years old when he came in the league. 18. Yep. When I was 18, I was still in high school, getting ready to go to college. I could not imagine the pressure or the stress of playing in a professional sport. Or say it myself, I don't have the abilities to be able to play in professional sports, sadly. But it just goes to that fact, and that's why it just took a couple years to develop, and now he's here. He's getting an MVP chance at 21 years old. I think that's kind of crazy, actually. That's pretty weird to think about. I'm 21 years old right now.
It's insane. You know, I turned 18 2 months before I went to school. Actually, a month and a half before I went to school for my first year of college. Like, it goes back to the point. Like, same thing with a guy like Alexis Lafreniere. You know, people are like, oh, trade him. He hasn't been what they wanted. Why would you trade him? Unless you're getting like a superstar in return. Same thing goes for Capo Caco. Honestly, the same thing goes for the majority of the Rangers roster, because the majority of their roster, I think, is my age, Toomey's age, or lower. So, you know, it's this matter of, especially in hockey, you got to let guys develop. And it reaches a certain point where you can't do that anymore. And it makes sense. But, you know, you gotta have the patience. The patience is vital. And to touch on the Rangers, man, Jacob Trouba is turning into a fun villain, and I am all here for it. Did you see the hits last night?
I did not, no.
Oh my goodness gracious. Dude is like, he would be a very good linebacker for the Jets. I must say. Just coming in, shoulder lowered, boomstick. They gave him a 5-minute minor, or 5 major or minor, I don't know, for one of the hits. Major. It was for one of the hits he had, completely legal. But, you know, I have this enjoyment where, you know, it's always fun cheering for the underdog team, but as Toomey, as a Yankees fan, can say, sometimes it's fun to cheer for the team that's considered the villain, the team that has like it's a different dynamic, but it's very fun.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely gonna be an exciting finish. Um, I mean the Rangers had an upsetting finish to their season last year. Even though I don't want to root for them, hopefully they can turn something out with it. May the best team win for it. But there's still a lot of competition in the league. You got teams like the Bruins who are just head over heels over everyone else. But just like any other playoff sport, anything can happen. And we've seen it through and throughout. I think Tampa Bay a couple of years ago were the top dogs. And then first round got swept or something like that. So anything can happen, especially in a sport like hockey. Just to touch on more news, I think the Devils are finally back at full strength, which is great to see. Getting defenseman John Marino back. And I don't know, it's just going to be exciting. I mean, I've been to a bunch of games this year, and the atmosphere at the stadium keeps getting better and better and better and better. And when I started going to games in the beginning, I mean, just to go to Newark Tuesday night against a random team, I'd be on the Jumbotron every time they pan to the fans because no one's in there. So it's really just cool to see excitement for the franchise, which they probably haven't seen since the early 2000s.
Zach Parise, Martin
And
Brodeur.
that year, just to add on that too. It's just
Parise,
glad to be
Brodeur.
back into the mix for the teams. But no, trade deadline's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a great finish. A lot of great names out there. A lot of older guys too, with some injuries. I was looking through it all yesterday. The big names, Timo Meyer.
Yep.
And a lot of talks with him may go on the Devils, but all the teams are looking at him who are in contention right now. Hopefully, he just doesn't go to a team like the Bruins or something like that. But I don't believe anything like that's going to happen. But yeah, no, I love talking about hockey. I love the sport. Can't wait to see how it wraps up, and we'll still be talking about it every Tuesday. We'll have a little hockey segment.
Exactly. So with 9 minutes left, it's time for our week ahead, and I'm gonna get started. You know, you have the obvious, the Super Bowl, yeah, of course, but you know the Derek Carr resolution is something that I'm very interested in seeing. Obviously, that's going to really come down the pipeline after Super Bowl. The deadline's 3 days after Super Bowl, February 15th. But is there a push for Rodgers? Is there a push for Carr? You know, I'm very interested to see how that turns out. I'm interested to see how the Knicks head into the All-Star break because they got the Magic, the Sixers, the Jazz, the Nets, and the Hawks before the All-Star break. You know, do they finish strong? Do they stay consistent? Or do they stumble a bit into it? Do they make a big trade? Do they add a huge part to the roster that is going to solidify things going forward? Or do they stand pat and make everyone consider, hey, you know, is this team actually for real? I'm interested to see Brooklyn. How do they respond to the Kyrie Irving trade? What do they do to improve their roster? And more specifically, how do they perform in the midst of that? Can Cam Thomas continue to step up? And then with the Rangers coming out of the All-Star break, got a fun stretch against the Canucks, Kraken, and Hurricanes. How do they respond to that overtime win? Are they able to continue that momentum, or are they back to the win 2, lose 1, lose 2, win 1 type, you know, structure they were on? And then with baseball, I'm excited for spring training. That's all I got to say on that.
That's coming up, right? No, that's got to be close. No, a lot excited. Can't wait for baseball back. Love the baseball news. Love talking about baseball. We're fans of two of the best franchises right now in the league. Hopefully they can give us some joy. Any news for baseball at all? Have you seen anything?
Carlos Beltran got hired in the Mets front office. That's about it. And John Heyman can't stop talking about Ohtani to the Mets and how, that's not realistic. And who cares?
When you look back at it, I was talking to a friend the other day with it was supposed to be a couple years ago. Beltran was the manager of the Mets until all that Houston stuff came out. And he'd probably still be the manager to this day, right? Which is
no.
Do you think when Cohen came in, he would
out? Well, honestly, if revisionist history, because Cohen is very in tune with Mets history, he probably would have transitioned Beltran to a front office role because it doesn't look good to fire a Mets legend as your first move coming into an organization. I don't think he would have did that.
But yeah, no, I can't. Spring training's gonna be fun. A lot of talented guys coming out. I know for the Yankees, hopefully they start bringing up prospects. Which I mean, I'm in a group chat and we talk about all the time how we guys got on the field like Donaldson, IKF. Like they better not see the field when it really comes down to it. If you really want to win and you really want to compete, I don't know how these guys really. The front offense looks at these guys like Donaldson, IKF, be like these guys are going to win us a championship.
Is this the year Volpe's called up?
He's young. I say he's their number one prospect right now, which is very cool to see.
Well, I want to see how Peraza does. I've been excited about Peraza.
He's a talent. He really is. But no, I mean, when you really think about if you brought like that's why I think the coming years for the Yankees going to be very exciting because you got guys like Peraza. That left side of the infield is going to be Peraza and Volpe if it all stays the same. And then you got a guy like Dominguez who when Aaron Hicks' time is up with the New York Yankees, he could fill a role out there in center field.
Was that sarcasm I heard?
It was a bit, but hopefully he
Okay.
can turn the season around. I know he got a lot of hate last year, and I never like to hate on players. I think especially Yankees fans do a terrible job. They treat their players atrociously. I think the Joey Gallo hate was way too much. I mean, for them to even boo Aaron Judge last year, atrocious. Calling out all the Yankees fans there. That's not how you treat a player, especially the one who just gave us one of the greatest seasons we'll ever see. But yeah, no, it's gonna be exciting baseball season for sure. We're gonna talk about it a lot. I know that for sure.
Yeah, so that wraps up the show for this week. Like I said, we're going to be posting our picks from today's show on my Twitter, at least. Make sure to follow along. Make sure to comment on, how you think we're doing and if we know what we're talking about sports betting or if if we don't. We'll be back next week talking about the Super Bowl recap, kind of a year in review type show about the NFL and what to look forward to in the offseason for, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and obviously the Jets and Giants. Probably Jets quarterback news, more Knicks news, probably more Nets news, more Rangers, Devils, Islanders talk, which we didn't really get to the Islanders, but that's okay because the Islanders aren't doing much. And then we got baseball. Baseball's quickly approaching. So make sure to stay tuned to the show. Make sure to keep commenting in the chat, interacting with us. We appreciate all of it. We truly do. It's a blast to interact with all you guys, seeing all the different perspectives and things in our chat. So we truly appreciate it. So Toomey, any last words before we sign off?
Can't wait for next Tuesday. That's it. We're talking about. There's gonna be some excitement to talk about. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yep. So for myself and Toomey, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. We'll catch you guys next week.